behind it.
Like, well, it doesn't matter. We're live now.
Oh yeah, live.
Texarkana. Do you do your, well, we'll get to that. TexarkanaFYI.com. You know, we like to share the positive and the things of public interest. And podcasting is really, I don't want to say it's now, because podcasting is becoming so much more. Right. We have a lot of local podcasters, and I got to meet up with Mr. Joe Teel. Joe has a podcast.
Yes. The Joe Teel Podcast, man. It's our episode. I just had you come in and sit down with me, episode 60.
So I've been busy. Was exciting, man. You have such a neat little, we can only see so much, I think, the way the camera, my camera is set up. Your camera is so much better. I feel so inadequate.
Oh, no.
Looking around in your set. But yeah, we got to come on and talk about some social media stuff. And I went looking at your channel on YouTube.
Right.
And you've had all sorts of guests.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've had everything from tattoo artists, coaches, MMA fighters, MMA coaches, event coordinators, preachers,
political officials,
school system guys. I mean, anything you can think of, I've almost had them on here.
I've been enjoying the content thoroughly. You know, with our stuff, we come in and usually do 5-10 minutes and kind of just touch on who somebody is, hoping that they'll get to know more about them. So we wanted to take the opportunity to talk about your podcast because of the diversity of guests and topics.
Yeah.
That you cover.
And the length is one of what I think is one of my favorite deals about podcasts is that you can sit down. You know, it's hard to gauge somebody in 5 minutes. It's hard to gauge somebody in 10 minutes, you know, but you get that behind the scenes into people's life, because if you talk especially for more than an hour, you're going to start to get a feel for who that person is and what really is motivating them to do whatever is getting them recognized in the first place.
So how did you get into this?
Well, you know, I tried this about 3 years ago, and it was at a time where I was doing studio work, you know, audio engineering. And as I was trying it, I was like burning out from that business. I was just severe burnout. And so I did like 7 interviews, and they were just with the artists, music artists. And I was local here. And I was thinking, I was like, man, I think I'm really good at this. And I enjoyed it. But I was at the same time, the studio, I knew I was about to pivot. And so I just think it was the wrong time. It was the right thing, wrong time. And then just recently, I just decided, I was like, hey, you know, the Read, Talk, and Listen podcast, they're here in town. Nicholas Reed. He was... so
R-E-E-D?
R-E-E-D, yeah. Him and his brother's from Texarkana, but he moved to South Dakota. They were talking on the phone. They were having 2 or 3 hour conversations, and they were in the origins of it. Then they decided, you know what, let's make a podcast. And so I played in a flag football league with Nick Reed, who played college football, real good at football. But anyways, he showed me his podcast, and I was like, okay, I'll go check it out. So I went and listened to it, and I was like, I can do this. And it was like those guys. Shout out to them, Dreaded Archer. That's what, when I saw someone else do it, I was like, dude, I could do that.
I should have brought a notepad in. Read,
Talk, and Listen podcast.
Read, Talk, and Listen. There's quite a few local podcasts.
Right. Yeah. Graves of Garden. Shout out to Constance. I had her on the show. Million Minds. Brandon Walker. Man, there's so many of them. There's even some car salesman guys that got together. They have a football podcast talking about NFL.
I enjoy it so much because it's real folks having real talk.
Right.
To them, whatever that may be. But everybody, I don't want to say has a similar, everybody, it's kind of a similar layout as far as folks coming in. How hard is it for somebody to get into podcasting?
Well, the barrier to entry it just depends on like how well you really want to deck everything out. You know, you could take a phone, you could take your exact setup and you're ready to go.
Spend about $35.
Yeah. And you can do that, you know, so it's all about how you want it to, you know, and I had a lot of equipment already. So the barrier for entry for me was a little lower because I was like, well, dude, I already have a whole bunch of stuff.
Look how technical I am. I was leaving trash laying around. I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good. But no, it's I think it's something that, because here's the beauty of podcasts, right? This is in a world full of technology, TVs, movies, phones in our face all the time. Our conversations that we even have with like our friends and stuff, they all get limited by distractions. I still feel like, so these conversations I have with people, these feel like conversations I was having when I was like 13, 14, when I didn't have a phone in my face. And it was just like,
you were really thinking about what you were saying.
Yeah, it's just like if we're just sitting around a truck somewhere and as me and the boys and we're just talking. Like nowadays, even if we sit around a truck, we're just talking, somebody's doing this. Or if you're at dinner, somebody's got their phone. You're constantly fighting for people's attention. And when you get these guests in to do podcasts, like there's no phones. Everybody's just, I looked at you, you looked at me. We talked, we met. Isn't this crazy? We talked for an hour and 40 minutes on camera.
Didn't really seem that long.
Yeah, on camera. We talked for another hour afterwards. But the crazy thing about, like, especially having guests is I could just meet you and we might talk for 2 or 3 hours. And there's no distractions. And I feel like that is one of the beautiful things about podcasting. So I think anybody can do it. I do feel like conversation is an art form, and that you do have to work and study on.
And you can see that in your content. Among the local podcasts, you mentioned Read, Talk, and Listen.
Mm-hmm. Another lady that started podcasting around the same time as me is Graves to Garden. It's
Graves to Garden.
Gardens, yeah. She's cool. She has gardens, yeah. Constance Washington. I had her on my show, and she.
Now, are all of these available on the same platform?
YouTube, Spotify,
and Spotify would be
Apple
the first
Podcast.
Places to look.
Right.
There are, the newspaper, I think, has one. It's more like, newsy, but
right.
And I think people are wanting something different from that. They're wanting what podcasters, what our local folks, you are putting together here. And it's so neat to me because some of these people I've talked to, like, you had one of them, the Field of Dreams, Eric.
Eric Aiken. Yeah, in Fields of Faith.
Yeah. Yeah. What did I say?
Field of Dreams. That's all good.
Baseball. Yeah. I don't even know where that came from. So, but, we talked a little bit about the big event that they were having.
Right.
And I don't know, 10 minutes. But you had him in here, forever.
And
you cover so much stuff. It's so many different topics with so many different people. And you really, the way you interview them, you feel like you kind of get to know these guests.
Right. That's the goal, too. And I try not to do too much research. And it's kind of been my hack. I wait till people get here. And,
I'm just making sure you.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's my high dollar setup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I try to get people in here and I ask the questions that I think, not just that I want to know, but I want to ask questions so like if they don't know you, I want to ask questions in a way where they learn about you. Even if let's say I knew some information about you, I don't want to just bring you in here and work off that information. Let me at least ask you that first and maybe like, let's build into that. So even the common person that doesn't know who you are, they now have a feel for you. Sure. And so, yeah, people like, my highest viewed video, full length video, because, clips, some of my clips take off. That's cool. But the hour-long videos, that's what I'm really trying to get people to watch.
Do you see much turnover with your shorts and clips driving subscriptions? No.
Mm-mm. It's like it's like their own separate thing.
And that's just it's kind of like growing a garden, I think, some of these things. Even though it is a digital world and we're so used to everything being quick, fast, and in a hurry, you still got to till the soil, Teel, and plant the seed, water, grow the garden.
Right.
And the content is awesome.
Right.
So I think, how many subscribers do you think you have?
I have on YouTube. I have 400, and I just hit 400. But what a lot of people,
that's great for a new podcast.
Right. I started in January this year, so I've done 60 episodes this year.
That's
and I had a whole nother show. I had a whole nother show that we just took a break from. That I had 35 episodes on, and we were going weekly. We just took a break from it, but so I'm closing in on 100 episodes.
Now, who are your favorite
podcasts that I listen to? Oh, yes. Let's get into that. First of all, Joe Rogan's hard to beat. I love Joe Rogan. My beef with Joe Rogan right now is that I feel like he's out talking the guests. He's been on a little rampage lately where he's talking more than the guests, which, I mean, that's his style and that's cool. But anyways, I always love Joe Rogan. That's a good show.
Now, is it a beef with him if he doesn't know who you are?
No, it's 100% not a beef. It's not definitely not. No.
But
yeah, Joe
so
Rogan.
He's kind of the thing that everybody thinks of.
Yeah,
you know,
that is like the top podcast you think, but he started before everybody, and he just never stopped doing it. Yeah. I really like Lex Friedman. Lex Friedman's good.
Okay.
And he has the same type of guests as Joe Rogan, but he interviews differently. He's more passive as far he does put his input in. He's really smart. And I like to listen to guys that are really smart, you know, because I like to learn, because I get into science, I get into history, and they have a lot of guests like that. I love Danny Jones. He kind of goes out and get like ex-CIA guys or ex-Navy SEAL guys or even scientists, ancient history guys, stuff like that.
Just a wide range of types.
And like Julian Dory, another one. I've just gone down these whole of these particular type of guests where they bring in.
Let me really put you on the spot. What about local podcasts?
Local podcasts, yeah. Like I said, the Read, Talk, and Listen is this main local podcast I listen to. They talk about sports. They're funny. I know them. They talk about hunting also, which is cool.
And we're on the seasons.
Yeah. So it's hunting season and football season. So them guys have got good.
They're covered.
Yeah.
What do you have coming up?
What do I have coming up? I don't know if you know Derek Keener.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I just talked to Derek Keener on the phone. I'm going to have him come interview.
Okay.
Michael Rhodes. I don't know if you know Michael Rhodes.
Okay.
Yeah, got Michael Rhodes coming.
Oh man, I couldn't do this to you, but
what is it?
Do you have a favorite guest?
Favorite guest
that's come along so far?
Oh man,
doesn't have to be local. It can be anybody.
Yeah, a couple of my favorite conversations were, there's the guy that runs Cake House, Brendan Stovall.
Oh, okay.
And kind of a hippie dude. He's real cool. So I brought him in and we talked about Cake House and all that stuff the first time. And then after the episode was over, he just started launching into all these conspiracy theories, and we sat here and talked for a while. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to bring you back. And so I went and brushed up on my conspiracy theories, and we went for like an hour and 30 minutes talking about just the wildest stuff.
Everybody's having to come up with new theories because, you know.
The old theories are real. The old conspiracy theories are real life now. But no, I enjoy talking to him. But there's been so many good ones. I love talking to Matt Fry. Matt Fry is one of my favorite dudes ever. And he launched into this long deal about the school system, and I was just sitting there just learning about like all like he's going into the politics of it and all this, and I'm just like, dude, I had no idea.
Right. So and that's what I'm saying with that much time, you get to learn so much more.
Right.
I'm jealous. I really
It's fun. Yeah. Well, you just got to record longer.
Spotify.
At the most,
YouTube.
Yeah, most people put them on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and some people put them on like all the places where they do podcasts. But that's a lot of work, and there's a lot of places.
And if I'm not mistaken, Spotify has Spotify for podcasters platform.
You can post those free to an extent. I use Buzzsprout. It's like a hosting website, so I can post hours and hours and hours. I grabbed my phone real fast, and I have a bunch of episodes I want to shout out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I didn't have my phone earlier. The cookie lady, I can't believe I didn't mention her.
Sharkeetha, when she had the business on State Line, we met with her, and then there were lines of cars.
Yeah, she shut down State Line.
Yeah.
Morgan Smith, shout out to Morgan Smith, Texarkana Game Day. That was a fun one.
They do a great job covering high school sports.
Yeah, and it was...
Again, I guess that, I don't know. I guess technically they're a podcast.
Right, yeah. The cool thing about his interview is that I brought him in to talk about Game Day, and we talked about Game Day for 15 minutes. And then he talked about 45 minutes. He talked about hiking in Alaska, taking pictures of bears, which was crazy.
Have you seen the pictures?
Yes, he sent me a whole bunch of them. He was zooming in. You could see the bugs. These are giant bears. He's like, they walk up in the camp.
I'm all for, thrill seeking, but not something that can eat you. I mean, that's a little bit different, but yeah. So,
Jason Elliott, I had Jason Elliott, who was on 2 seasons of Ink Masters, and he's from Texarkana. So he didn't win Ink Masters, but he did really good the first time he was on there, and he was like a real memorable character. You know, it's good reality TV.
So these are a bunch of great local folks. You know,
Yeah, Zach Fowler. That was my most viewed video. These things, like, so you would see Morgan. I had no idea that Morgan goes to Alaska and just hangs out. That's something that you find out talking to him for an hour.
Yeah,
you know, or you want to know
10, 15-minute thing, you know, it's just enough time to talk about what they cover, basically. You know?
Right. And to see like Fowler and Liberty Yellow Baseball, shout out to Liberty Yellow Baseball. They made that historic run they just made in one state, but you get him on the show and he tells you step by step how it went, and that there was times where there's like, I don't know, and then there's this and that. And so, man, shout out to Fowler for sure.
Everybody we talked about it. Everybody's got a great story.
Right.
I mean, you know, it may not be the most romantic or most, you know, I don't know,
flashy,
but it's a good story. Everybody's story is good. There's some good, bad, there's tears, there's joy, there's a little bit of everything in everybody's life. And podcast is a little bit closer to that than, you know, commercial radio or especially television.
Right.
And so that's why I enjoy it so much. And again, I guess I listen audio more than you.
Yeah, I listen to most of my podcasts that I listen to on Spotify at work. So I just have headphones in at work.
Yeah.
So I might listen to like 3-hour podcasts at work.
And I guess because this will happen, let's see, who do I like? Dan Bongino has a podcast. I listen to, and he'll have video that goes with his.
Right.
So I can go back and check it out later.
Right. Yeah.
Theo Vaughn.
I love Theo. Shout out to Theo.
Yeah, that's another podcast that I listen to. You know, he's just, I don't know, to me, he's the epitome of being yourself.
Right. Yeah. There's no other Theo Vaughn.
Yeah. You know, so, but again, Joe Teel, the Joe Teel.
Right, the Joe Teel Podcast.
The Joe Teel Podcast.
I had some name, creative interviews, all this stuff, and I just decided
has a podcast.
Yeah, I just decided to make it easier. Not even just Joe Teel Podcast.
Joe Teel Podcast. Find it on YouTube, Spotify. You got questions, they can hit you up. And
right, yeah. If you want to be a guest, contact me too. If you do something
there
cool.
You go. Yeah, you want to be a guest, or you got ideas for a guest or a show. Do you do any on location or live? Do you ever go live?
I had not live, but I went to a location. I went to the Banana Club downtown, which you could really go into Banana Club, and I did not know where to set the equipment up, like, because there was every corner of the Banana Club was like the perfect podcast background. But I did, Lord, why am I forgetting his name, y'all? I have to look.
David Peavy.
Yeah,
he did all the decorating in there, I guess.
I'm so upset that I'm having to look. I'm so sorry. Jed Harrelson.
It's just live.
It's just live. That's it. You know Jed Harrelson, though, right?
Yeah.
So Jed
he's still up in Tennessee, but
he
comes
down
around occasionally
and did the Banana Club, and it was like packed out. But before, while they were setting up, me and him set off to the side in the Banana Club and did an interview. That's on YouTube too. Go check that out.
He's got the stories on the inside scoop of what it takes to play in Nashville. Because he stays pretty busy up there.
Yeah, shout out to Jet. That's the boy.
Man, I can't thank you enough. Joe Teel Podcast, YouTube, Spotify. Hit him up. Check it out. Yeah. If you've got something of local interest you'd like to share, we'd like to talk to you for a few minutes too. Get with Joe and spend some time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
It's gonna be at least an hour. That's my minimum.